is a new era in East Lansing as Pat Fitzgerald takes over as the head coach for Michigan State. This is a team looking to get back to bowl season. Do I think that's possible? Absolutely, but there's some questions that have to be answered about this team. This is a team that's coming off of another very disappointing season, which is why Pat Fitzgerald was coming in to not only fix the physicality, but to bring great effort and bring a type of coaching that Michigan State fans recognize. And that is a passionate coach that, when he talks, makes you want to run through a wall for them. And that's exactly what Pat Fitzgerald is. Now, effort-wise, last year, especially defensively, I don't think there was issues there. Defensively last year, the biggest issues, the biggest question marks was the defensive line, was getting to the quarterback. Michigan State struggled doing that last year, and I think that is still kind of the biggest question mark for Michigan State as well, because this is a team that needed to replace a ton of players through the poll. They needed to get better through the poll, and I thought they did that in some spot. Trey Bell from Iowa State, the corner. You also have Michael Richard as well, the safety from Louisiana Tech. I think those are a couple really good gets. Offensively, the main focus was the offensive line. But the defense is where I want to keep an eye on for the very beginning. Because when it comes to the defensive line and when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback, it is so much more difficult to go out and get an impact guy. And MSU very possibly could have in Kenny Soares. Kenny Soares is going to be that main guy defensively that I'm going to keep an eye on for. He is that guy that MSU went out and got that I think could make an impact at that position. Kenny Soares is going to wear the 1 at Michigan State. That means something to Pat Fitzgerald. He was voted for that. Kenny Soares is going to be a big part of this defense. And if Michigan State can get pressure on the quarterback, can do well stopping the run as well, this is going to be a defense that should be vastly improved. Now, last year, was the issues only defense? No, it wasn't. But this is a defense, this is a secondary that Michigan State fans have to recognize a little bit more of. And that is physicality. That is when you get hit, you hear the pads popping. That is what Coach Rossi, that is what Coach Bulla, that is what this coaching staff, I think, as a whole, is going to really talk about and really push for, because this is a coaching staff that is extremely motivated. This is a coaching staff that goes absolutely nuts when a play happens. That's not something that Michigan State fans had under Jonathan Smith. This is going to be a little bit different. That's why a lot of people really enjoyed Rossi last year and really kind of bought in and saying, hey, you know what? If he comes back, that's fine, because he showed emotion. This is going to be a team, this is going to be a defense that is going to have to show emotion. I think there's obviously some talent here, right? Jordan Hall, the middle linebacker, the captain, he's going to be leading this defense. And he is going to be probably, quote unquote, the most likely to get drafted out of anyone on this team. Jordan Hall is an incredible linebacker. He's going to be a big part of this defense. He has been a big part of this defense. And I think Jordan Hall is going to have a really good year. And I think he will have a really good year. But let's go on the opposite side of the ball, because I do think there's some questions there as well. Biggest one to me is wide receiver room. You have 2 transfers in KG Smith and Frederick Moore from Michigan. These are 2 guys that are going to have to be massive for this offense. Now, obviously, Christian McCray is back as well. That will probably be your 3 starting wide receivers there. But these guys are going to have an impact, especially if Alessio Milivojevic has time in the pocket. That was another issue that Michigan State had last year, was protecting Aiden Childs, especially even Alessio Milivojevic during the end of the season. That Minnesota game, he got hit so many times. He got sacked so many times. If you can't protect Alessio Milivojevic this year, it's still going to be a long season. Now, I thought MSU did a really good job of addressing the offensive line in the transfer portal. You obviously have a guy in Luka Benke coming back, but you also went out and got a couple of guys. Nick Sharp, I thought, was really good. Ben Moraski, I thought, was really good. Haley as well. There's some guys on this offensive line that are going to be veteran guys that, yeah, you know what, they're moving up in quote-unquote play, but if you can get consistent offensive line play, that will not only help Alessio Milivojevic, but it will also help the run game as well. Cam Edwards, the running back from UConn, was kind of one of the biggest quote unquote gets that Michigan State had. A lot of people are really excited about Cam Edwards, and rightfully so. He was good at UConn, and I think he has the potential to be really good at Michigan State. Pat Fitzgerald talked about him quite a bit of basically seeing what he saw, and he's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should kind of pull this guy away a little bit. Don't let him practice. Don't let him get hurt. I think Cam Edwards, if you get good offensive line play, if you get health from that offensive line, should have a really good season and should help MSU offensively as well. And you obviously have Nick Sheridan as the offensive coordinator for this team. At Alabama, they like to run the ball a little bit. You're going to see that this year in Michigan State historically, especially under Pat Fitzgerald. I think is going to want to play physical offense. They're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to be effective running the ball, which then opens up the pass. This is a real possibility with this offensive line if they stay healthy, depth-wise, and like players that have played outside of the starters. Yeah, there's some questions there, but I think as a whole, the strength for this Michigan State offense is going to be your offensive line. You also have tight end as well. There's been some really high praise for a couple of these tight ends that I think will be someone to watch out for. Now, at the end of the day, this is a really difficult schedule. Michigan State goes to Notre Dame. Michigan State has to play Oregon. Michigan State obviously has to play Michigan. There's a couple of games in here that Michigan State needs to figure out a way to win if they want to go to a bowl game. And I think really a lot of these games that you keep an eye on for, probably the biggest one is going to be that rematch against Northwestern, right? It's a very meaningful game. It could be a game that could help Michigan State get to a bowl game. MSU has to take advantage of their opening non-conference. You have to start out the season 2-0. You have to beat Toledo. You have to obviously beat Eastern Michigan. If you can stay competitive against Notre Dame, which is a top 5 team in the country, which is going to be very difficult to do, you don't necessarily have to win that to completely have fans back in. But you have to win some of these games, like against Nebraska, against Northwestern. You have to win these games if you want to get to where you want to go. I think they possibly can if they stay healthy. This is a team that still has spots that need to be addressed that it is going to be difficult to do. But at the end of the day, Michigan State, if they stay healthy, if they play well, if that defense is going to be better, if they can run the ball, can get back to a bowl game. That should be kind of around the benchmark. It should be like 5 wins. If you can get to 6 wins, great season. If you can get to 7, 8, incredible season. I don't think you're getting anywhere past that, but there's some pieces here. And I think it's going to be about who's going to step up. What is this offensive line going to be? What kind of pressure is the defensive line going to get? And then the biggest question marks or the biggest upside is if guys like KK Smith or Frederick Moore can have a great season, or Christian McCray can have a great season, or someone else steps up that you don't expect, that can make a difference in the season as well. So we're going to see what MSU has under Pat Fitzgerald this upcoming year. I think you're obviously going to expect physicality, effort. The end results, we don't necessarily know, but there's a possibility here for Michigan State. But let me know in the comments. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts. Thanks so much for tuning in. The previews are finally done. College football is right around the corner. I am so excited. Thanks for tuning in.